All right, we're recording. Daniel, it's all yours.
Perfect. So, hello everyone. So today is 10th of March 2020. Welcome to the Grimoire Lab weekly meeting. So we were discussing before starting to record that we are supposed to have, we had like a bunch of actions during the last meeting, discussions about, moving to GitLab. That was moved the discussion to the general chaos meetings.
Yeah.
And then regarding to, I'm moving this because if not I will keep PP. So the idea for today is we have from the previous agenda items, like we were discussing about this migration to GitLab. We were discussing about using a single issue tracker and so on. But then there was a specific discussion about proposals for new use cases. So during the last, 2 weeks ago or last week, Georg sent the tweet. We got like 0 responses. So even people from CHAOSS. So we should have answered that tweet. But so far we have no answers. So there were in any case like three proposals we can go with, and then we can start discussing about them. So we have one that it's right in the middle, done by Georg, but Georg is not here, which is the time day of week.
He's on right now. He's on the call. He's muted though. He might just be.
Okay, perfect. I didn't see the gallery view. I assumed he was not here. Okay.
Hey, Georg here. I'm in the car on my way to the doctor's appointment. I'm just listening in today.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. We are recording just in case, Georg. Yeah. So then we have like 3 new proposals, like some graph analysis of collaboration. So listing people who are bridging communities. We were discussing about certain metrics, greenness and some others, but we don't have them. But we can visualize these people or create some tables. This is kind of a how to say connectivity panel. Then the other one, the second we have is this discussion about hard and soft contributions, which is making a difference between those people producing commits. It's similar to this discussion we've already had about consumers and producers. Use that way of splitting the community. And then another use case that we may go with is the how to visualize the backlog. So there are a couple of options on the table. So these are the 3 use cases. From other working groups, I'm not aware of any, mainly because I've not attended any in the last 3 months at least. So I don't know if you have anything in mind that might be worth discussing here. What do you think?
Not that I've heard in terms of specific use cases. I mean, I think there's always an argument to be made around a use case from a particular focus area. You know what I mean? So the way that the working groups are structured. But honestly, I haven't heard anything in particular coming from risk or value or anything.
Maybe something worth if we review the release of metrics. Oh, sorry. Is it worth if we review the release of metrics we had for FOSDEM? But in that case, we may look for other use cases we might be interested.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy if we're in a use case accumulation mode right now. We could be more systematic in how we identify those use cases.
So I don't know. The other option is we go for one of the existing use cases and try to define.
I'd kind of like to go for one of the existing use cases. Just kind of bring this to fruition. It might actually help draw out other use cases. You know, that we can say whatever people bridging communities use case, and here's kind of what it can look like. And here's the metrics in the CHAOSS project that it draws on. So that might be helpful for people.
Yeah. So let's start then with the people bridging communities.
Sounds good.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, so what we did during the last discussions about this was to go for, well, we already had a similar discussion, right, about consumers and producers, but I don't remember. Do you remember when this discussion took place and the output? I don't remember.
A million years ago? I don't know.
Okay. Oh yeah, I have this. I was looking November 26.
That's basically a million years ago.
Yeah. So we have a discussion here about producers and consumers, which is producers, some are maintainers, and it says those people sending and getting accepted pull requests. Or maybe it's worth if I share my screen. So let me. Let me check one thing. So I can close. Oh, not this one. Just extra 10 seconds. Okay, now I think I can share my screen. So then this is, do you see the doc? Oh,
Yeah, I do.
Okay, do you see the full screen?
I do.
Okay, so yeah, here are the 26 is where we had this discussion. So we were specifically discussing about this difference between producers and consumers. And well, we had this discussion as well about the contributors funnel, how well we can see now the image, which users, contributors, maintainers. And then we kind of stopped discussing about this. And then we started to discuss about other things. And then nowadays, if we go here about the hard and soft contributions, that one thing, and then we have people reaching communities. But in the case of the hard and soft contributions, maybe I was thinking that maybe it's worth keep discussing about this because there's already a use case here in GitHub where one of the Bitergia customers, in this case, AIM, was interested in understanding what this is and so on. So then instead of having consumers and producers, we had a difference between hard contributions and soft contributions. So this is for Open Networking Foundation, as far as I remember. And then we have like these two differences here between code contributions, which are.
I remember this. Yep.
And then we have other project activity, whatever it is.
Yep.
And then we have like list of developers here and there, well, contributors here and there, and then projects and how they are behaving and contributions and so on. As you can see, the dashboard is still work in progress because we are working with the customer, but the specific need we may have here for hard and soft contributions is to make a difference between those producing code and then those coming as newcomers to the community. Yep. As typically they will go to the other data sources, not directly producing code. And then there are different use cases that we can have here, as from a more community-oriented use case where we can have newcomers. So if we know who they are, where they are participating, and who they are connected to, then we can onboard them faster, as we can touch down and say hello and go there and try to help them if they have any specific question. And then if we go to the other extreme, like a more business-oriented use case, then we may have newcomers coming to the community. And if we have like a really, how to say, business-oriented community, those newcomers might be new business leads. as those, I don't know, may come from as individuals, but they are kind of trying the technology. So then you can send that specific person to the business teams, and at the same time try to onboard that person in a faster way to the community. And then something in between, there are a bunch of other people. So this might be the use case, and probably one of the. So if you agree, we can start with this one, or we can go for the people bridging communities.
No, let's. I mean, if we have this one and it seems to be connected to that funnel idea that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that makes sense to me if this has already been started.
Okay. So then let's go. Shall we start like defining what a hard and soft contribution is?
Well, I think at this point you're just defining it as a commit or a not commit.
Yeah. But just to take note here, and then perhaps we need to create like a help with that kind of. And then perhaps we can say, do we have, I'm thinking now, do we have something in CHAOSS that says this is the community value or business value of what we are trying to analyze?
So yeah, I mean, there is obviously the value working group.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here. But in terms of like how to get it from trace data, maybe
not exactly, but it's like the problem statement what we are trying to solve.
Could you give me an example?
Yeah. So let's say that we are doing this analysis not because of the pleasure of doing the analysis, but because there's a value in doing this. And then in this case, the business value of the specific analysis of hard and soft contributions is that we can one, help newcomers to being onboarded faster to the community, which is good for the community as a whole. And then second, the other business value might be that we can have new business leads if we have this business interest in the community.
So just actually kind of like almost a paper that highlights why we want this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not that I've seen, but I could take a look.
So I remember that in where is this in the one we did with Georg, we had this. Well, the rationale why we were doing this, and this was in part because this was coming from one of the working groups, right?
Probably the value working group. I'm looking through the focus areas for a second. Not seeing anything about the conversion of people. I think that's kind of what you're asking.
Yeah.
I'm going through the current metrics that are in the value working group and seeing if they have any like resources. You know what I mean? They point to this. So like if I put
Hi, can I just ask a question? I want to be clear about this point. On community value, business value, is there a paper that highlights the value of converting contributors to maintenance? Value of converting contributors to maintenance. Can you just explain that a little bit to me, please?
So we are still trying to guess this. But typically, we have this concept of funnel analysis. So let me go back to the November 26th. Yeah. So let me open this. And then basically we have, well, this is the other way around, but with like the onion analysis. So we may have specific, so the onion analysis says your open source community is based on a set of core contributors, and then you have like casual contributors, and then you will have like advanced users, and then you will have like users. Well, this is kind of a really short definition and probably not properly done, but you know what I mean. So then the other way around, if we, for instance, if we are a corporation and we open an open source project, one of the goals here is to get our technology adopted, or perhaps we are trying to share costs with other organizations, or even if we go to the goal of, I don't know, the OpenStack Foundation is to exactly that, to get their technology adopted. So that means that we need users, but then at the same time, if we want to get involved other corporations and so on, then we need contributors and at the very end, maintainers. So my position here is that the more maintainers you get in your community, the more costs you are sharing probably with other corporations, or the more likely your community will survive or will be sustainable, because you will have different people from different areas, from different corporations working in the same project. So this is why I think it's important to look for this. So I see business value in this analysis because of this explanation, but I don't know if it makes sense. Armstrong, what do you think?
Yes, I do. And it makes sense now.
Okay. Yeah, so let me go back. Yeah, so detecting early self-contributions, detecting those early contributions may lead to finding new to use, develop, even by community.
So I do think one of the things that I have thought about on this issue in terms of community growth is there seems to be this implied assumption that more is always better. And I have to think that there are certain communities that have a reasonable size that is considerably smaller than other community sizes. Also finding that sweet spot, I think, is kind of important. And I don't know how to solve that either. I've been looking around on the internet for things like that. But the general premise is more is better. Grow your community, that's better. The more people you have, the more sustainable it is. And I don't know that that's, at least my own brain tells me that that's not necessarily the case. So actually, I think it's something we just need to think about.
So then you think that, but I guess that we should have a balance.
We do. So like the size, like if CHAOSS was the size of Kubernetes, that doesn't even make any sense, right?
Probably.
So clearly we're not trying to grow to that level. So what is our optimal spot that we're trying to hit? And I don't know how to figure that out.
Yeah, Yeah, that might be something interesting as well to discuss. Balance between probably as well balance between hard contributions and soft contributions. Because maybe we may have a community of people opening a lot of bags and so on, but they do nothing at all with the contributions. So then we may have like a lot of users.
Yep, and maybe that's fine for a particular community.
Yeah, so I'm thinking now about the pandas and others that are they don't have that many contributions, but they are heavily used by certain parts of the industry. So perhaps it's not having that balance somewhere might be something interesting to see. Like,
so actually, like in scientific communities, oftentimes the communities themselves are actually quite small, but the use of that scientific software is really quite high.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't know if a lot of those scientific communities could even handle the number of maintainers. That if you converted all of the users into to maintainers, again, that doesn't make much sense.
But this ratio might be interesting, right, for chaos. So we can define ratios metric.
Yeah.
So if we go, for instance, to this dashboard we have, this is like, okay, in code contribution. So it's like a ratio for each developer we have, or for each commit we have for
some form of other contribution.
And then for each developer contributor we have like 6 of them.
Yep.
Right.
And maybe that's perfect for this community.
Yeah, this is interesting. And then we may have like this distribution of so we have like, well, in this case, Gerrit was defined as not hard contribution. Well, we've had some discussion there, but then we have issues, mailing list, Slack comments, tickets, activity, Confluence, which is wiki, pull request activity, and then Papermail, which is in reality Mbox. So mailing list communication channels. Yeah, this makes sense to me. So, well, like a really quick approach to have some numbers would be this dashboard.
Actually, could you put at the top the ratio? So like the dashboard would lead, like see where it says code contributions, I can't point, but see where it says code contributions, like the 6,400, and then other project activity, 26,000, 27,000, like a panel above that is a ratio?
You mean like, like having this number out of this number, right?
Yeah, right. So you'd have a panel above, which is the kind of the composite view, which is the ratio view. And then you have a series of panels going down the right side, which is kind of the bottom half of that ratio. And the data going down the left side, which is the top half of that ratio.
Yeah.
Because the ratio view is obviously a composite look at both of these columns.
Yeah, but I don't know, because in Kibana, this is an aggregation. So that means that we are basically already calculating certain thing.
I see.
And then we have these others. I think we may need to calculate this in some other way. Perhaps what we can produce is I do this. So let me check this.
Yep.
So this is all enriched. We are removing Jenkins and Git. Okay, perfect. So then it's all enriched, the one we are using. Okay, whoops, this is wicked. So perhaps what we can do is, let me check something.
Yeah. Just remember, we're recording, so if there's anything that you are checking that you don't want us to see, just tell me. I can cut it out, okay?
Okay, yeah, so the index all enrich, time field, grimoire creation date. Yeah, I may need to remove the other. Okay. Oh no. So we do this. So then with this, we would have all of the contributions, but I'm only interested in this case, in the Git index. So then I need to apply like the same. Oh no, it was. Oh, it was here. Sorry.
Yeah.
So then I'm trying to remove from this chart here the activity from Git or the other activity.
Mm-hmm.
So then I need to check how this is done because I'm not sure. Not data source, Jenkins in Git. How can I? Okay. Oh, doing something. Let me stop sharing. I'm having some problems right now with my laptop.
You are still sharing.
Yeah. Okay. You still see the
I see the
chart,
bar,
right?
yeah, the bar chart, the stacked bar chart. Yep.
Okay, and I'm looking basically how to. I don't remember how to do the query. Okay, so maybe. And this is data. No. Okay, so then. Specify the data source. Okay. Does it work?
We'll find out. No, if the straight, maybe it's a perfect ratio.
Yeah. Data source, Jenkins, Git. And let me check again. Maybe it was without this. I'm doing something wrong. Well, anyway, so
I mean, maybe it's something we could bring up next week. I like this idea.
Yeah. So this is. Oh, let me check this again. Express the PS, and then we go for query, and then we say. This should work, but I'm missing something. Yeah. This. Nah, anyway. I need to check how this is done. I don't remember now.
Okay.
So once we have this, the good point about this is once we have this, we would have a time series for hard contributions. Then we would have another time series just for soft contributions. And then we can have one out of the other. So then we would have the evolution of them over time.
Be nice.
And then we would have our ratio.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
And it would be, I think it'd be nice for a couple of reasons. One is you could see the change over time of that ratio. And it might, just from a comparative perspective, as projects kind of want to compare themselves to other projects, you know what I mean, that may be of similar size, they can just get a sense of where they stand ratio-wise.
Yeah. Okay, so then, yeah, makes absolutely sense. So then perhaps for the next week, we can work on, so we have the ratio.
I like that.
Then we have here, we can have the ratio as well.
Yep.
And then anything else like having, probably these numbers and this evolution is interesting enough. Or
oh yeah, I think keeping those columns is important because it gives you insight into the ratio.
Yeah. But if we are talking about, so depending on the use case, it might be worth having these tables, for instance, about people or projects or even organizations. I don't know.
Yep.
So,
I think those are still important.
okay. Yeah. So sounds like we have something.
Yeah. So then I guess the ratio would tell us as the ratio. Like what does the ratio tell us as it gets closer to 1?
So I would say that the ratio is telling us at the very beginning of a project how mature the project is in terms of how many new members are coming to the community, because those new members should come using certain infrastructure or process, right? If there is no process in place, so at the very beginning of any project, people will just simply develop things, right? So they are contributing in terms of commits and so on. And then after a while, they realize there are some new people coming to the community, so perhaps people think, well, we need to have some process in place. So then if you're interested in talking to us, you have the mailing list. If you're interested in participating, you have the development rules or guidelines. If you, I don't know, this is how it is. If it makes sense, we can keep going.
So so we can continue. I mean, this is interesting. But like as the ratio changes, I suppose maybe we need to think through, try to capture what those changes might indicate. We don't have to do it now, but
yeah, I think it might be a good discussion for the evolution working group.
okay, yeah, sure. As the ratios change, what could these changes indicate? Okay, it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So this is now 36 minutes after we started the meeting. So just in case, I think we've done a good job.
Yeah, this is good. All right. Well, I'm going to drop off then.